This is Greg Collins, Substitute Teachers Lounge. Come on now. Math ain't hard. It's fun. We've got tools today for the substitute teacher to prove that, and a live recording. Listen to students' reaction when their teacher got zapped from the Zoom class. Let's do it.
Substitute Teachers Lounge.
All right, guys, just a few housekeeping things real quick. First of all, we'll play that recording in just a little bit. A couple of times names were mentioned, but all those names have been deleted, so it is strictly confidential and nothing is divulged that is personal about the students. You're just going to enjoy hearing those precious voices reacting to their teacher getting knocked out of the Zoom meeting. It's really kind of cute. I've listened to it several times. You won't like it as much as me, obviously, but I think it's hilarious, so we'll do that here in just a moment. But first of all, you guys know that back on June 28th, we had an episode where I interviewed my own children, one of my grandchildren, about our annual episode, our first anniversary, and we were excited about that. I mentioned at that time we had just broken 10,000 downloads. That was great. I want to tell you now that we've already hit 15,000. So I want to say that it took us a year to reach 10,000. It then took us 3 months to reach 15,000. So we're basically on twice the pace now that we were in our first year. We still vary from week to week. We haven't had a week lower than about 40 downloads per day. Since then, we've had as high as 110, and right now we're hovering right around 75. So it's great. I can tell new people are joining. I can tell they're going back and listening to previous episodes. That is really exciting. Second thing I want to mention, you're going to get sick of me talking about this, but maybe you're not. The Jen Stevens episode about when we interviewed her about the intermittent fasting book and even its effect on students and whether it should be used for students. It's called Fast, Feast, Repeat. That episode from about 10 weeks ago, that is already all the way up to our second most popular episode ever. I don't think it will catch our top episode because that's our very first episode. It's a little misleading. I'd say a lot of that came from people that listened to one episode, decide it's not for them. Most of you stick around, but it actually has about 150 download lead over the second place episode. But I hope Jen Stevens knocks it off. That was great. And if you're interested, there is also a YouTube video of that same interview on our YouTube channel, also called Substitute Teachers Lounge. It is up over 2,700 views now, so that is really exciting. If you search her name, our channel's episode is one of the most popular for her name, and also one of the most popular if you just search for intermittent fasting. So that's really exciting. And just as reminders, I don't think I've actually mentioned this in a couple weeks, and shame on me. I got to hear your questions. We're back in school, a lot of us now. It was decided this week that our area, we would stick with our schedule for elementary and middle schools, and we will have in-person, in-student in the classroom on September 28th. That will be a week from tomorrow when this is issued, so September 28th, 2020. The high schools in the area are actually going to wait a little bit longer than that. They're going to come in after the fall break. That just made more sense logistically for them. But we're getting started. There is a ton of extra paperwork that we have to fill out about class movement, student movement within the classrooms. We'll have to turn in seating charts to our nurse every day to see the movement. I was kind of proud of myself. We were challenged this week to assemble our classroom in such a way that everything was 6 feet apart. All the students were 6 feet apart. I thought I had lined up the tables fairly well, but I could tell it wasn't 6 feet apart. I actually ended up doing them kind of, I guess you would call it an accordion type arrangement. You start with a V and then another V and then another V all the way up, 2 rows of that. And one chair is on the left end of the V and one chair is on the right end of the V at the next table. And in fact, I got them 6 feet apart. So we're ready to go. I lifted up my webcam this week on my Zoom class with the kids to show them how we had done that, because I know a lot of the parents are in the room while we're having the Zoom classes, and I wanted them to rest assured as well. So we got a Facebook page, that's Substitute Teachers Lounge. We have an email address, that is gregcollinssubstitute@gmail.com. You can email us there. I would love to hear the questions, especially if some of the things I'm going to bring up today, I want to know what you've used in your classroom to accomplish the same thing. Remember that some 10 of the most popular episodes that we've had on Substitute Teachers Lounge is now in book form. It is called the Substitute Teachers Lounge Chronicles. You can pick that up in ebook. You can pick that up in paperback, both on Amazon, and we would love it if you do that. In fact, we'd love it if you'd also give us a review. That helps drive those sales, and I would appreciate it. I'm doing it just trying to get the word out. It's not that expensive. I think the paperback, they priced it at $6.99 or recommended a price of that. I think the emails, or I should say the e-edition, is even cheaper than that. So it doesn't cost you a whole lot, especially compared to some of the other books on similar subjects. So let's do that. And if you're a Twitter person, that is also at SubTeachLounge. And then finally, I'm trying to get the Instagram to take off just a bit better. And you can find that also at Substitute Teachers Lounge. So those are our social media resources. We are talking math today. Now, here's why I'm bringing it up. Let's face it, math is often one of the most difficult things to teach, especially if that is not your area. A lot of you are former teachers that now substitute teach in retirement. A lot of you are people that want to become teachers, and you're doing that as part of, I can't remember if it's called a practicum or what it's called, but you're doing that in anticipation of getting a teaching job. Some of you, like me, just retired from something else and you love kids, so you're substitute teaching for that reason. I have, since I'm a full-time sub this year, I have found some great tools. Thanks for the teachers that have recommended this and the schools that have recommended these. We're going to talk about them because they take the difficulty out of math. Now, I'm going to say something for the next couple of minutes that I know is going to be a little controversial. There'll be a lot of people out there that don't agree with me. There might even be some of my fellow teachers who I love that might not agree with me totally in what I said, but math was always my favorite subject. And I will say this, that this is the part that I think will be a little controversial. I think that as much as there is in math to learn, I think you're actually born with a little bit of it from the very beginning. I think there is some people that are born with math brains and some people that are not quite so born with math brains. I have often given students who I sub for, if we had leftover time in class, and I can't remember the exact website that I went to, but there's plenty of these out there, and that is left brain, right brain tests that you can give your students, and they can test themselves. Now, I will tell you that I am not a creative brain. I am not a right brain person. My wife is, for the most part, split right down the middle, so she's got a good mixture of both. I am heavily left-brained, if that's a proper way to say that. By the way, all the English teachers out there are probably fussing at me for using the word ain't at the beginning of the podcast and in the title of the podcast. I did that on purpose to try to draw a little bit of attention, but at the same time, that might show you that I'm not a right-brain person. I'm not creative. I am very much left-brained, and I've always enjoyed math, and I think some of that ability you're born with. I think you can even see it in kids as they're growing up. A lot of kids will have practical minds. A lot of kids will have creative minds. So, and then probably the majority of them are split down the middle, but I certainly am not split down the middle in that regard. So that's my controversial thought. I think you're actually born with a little bit of math ability, and you kind of gives you a head start on the others. Now, I could say it, I've seen some great drawings from students. I mean, absolutely great. And we're talking middle school, and I'm blown away some of the things that I see them draw. They are typically heavily right-brain students. And, you're probably born with a little bit of that ability too. And it just, as you get older, it progresses and it progresses. So I don't think it's bad that you're born with some math ability. I don't think it's bad that you're born with some creative ability. But the point I want to get across today, since we have to teach a lot of students for which math doesn't come as easily, or maybe if they just, if we're not careful, we'll allow the students to give up on themselves in math, or say things like, I'm never going to understand that. I don't know why I try. So I'm going to talk about some tools today. And even though they were given to me by regular teachers, they are very much tools for substitute teachers too, because we can use them for our extra moments in the classroom. We can use them when we're teaching a math class as kind of a fun thing to do along with the other projects that the teacher has left for them. And what I'm really thinking is, hopefully you're in a good enough situation in a math class that you have either traded some text messages with your teacher maybe the night before, and you know what the topic's going to be, or she just sent you the topic. Then you can go into some of these tools, look up some things, and make some things fun for those students while you're studying. I'll give you an example of something I did this week. We've got 3 7th grade math teachers. And of course, we're all teaching the same curriculum. We're doing it in a little bit different style, each of us, although I will say the teacher in charge of that 7th grade math, the one that's kind of organizing it, she has really, really gone out of her way to prepare things for us. And I almost feel guilty how much, I feel like I'm taking advantage of her, but when she prepares something that she's using for her students, she always tells us about it. And then we basically just go in and through Google Slides or whatever part of Google we use, we make copies of those, we make it our own. And that's a good way to both keep consistent, keep on time, and make sure that all the students are being taught the same thing at the same time. You don't want one 7th grader talking to another one and say, hey, we're not learning that, or how come I have to do this and you don't? So that helps us avoid that. Now, at the same time, we've all got our little things that we add extra into the class. And I would tell you, one of the textbooks that's used in the school I go to is called Go Math. That's the first resource I'll tell you. I think it's worthwhile for you to have one of those books, whether you're in a math situation every day or whether you occasionally substitute as a math teacher. I found we're studying integers right now. We just finished addition of integers. We are soon moving to subtraction of integers. And I found a great little simple thing in the Go Math book that was kind of turned it, the learning part of it, into a game, a maze. They had to start with the number 3 in one corner of the maze. They had to get to the number 0 at the bottom of the maze. And to do so, they had to there were numbers in between the 3 and the 0, some positive, some negative. So they had to draw their line through a combination of numbers that would eventually go down to the 0 and, in fact, add up to 0. For instance, they started with 3. If the next number was -5, they'd be to -2. And then if the next number was +2, well, then they're finished because that does, in fact, add up to 0. But, of course, this table was much bigger than that. It was accomplished in 8 steps. And let me tell you what happened. Most of the time in our classes, I give them the last 10 minutes or so to work on our projects together. We're all silent unless they need to ask me a question. And it's just like in the classroom where you give them an assignment and they're doing their work in the class. But I noticed when the class was officially over, most of the time they're all ready to leave. Some of them stick around and ask some miscellaneous questions. In this case, however, when I gave them this maze at the end of the classroom, I had kids wanting to get through it, and they kept working and working. Some of them stayed extra time in class. I had to tell them, guys, you all have another Zoom class coming up, I'm sure, with another teacher soon, so don't make yourself late for that. But I was proud of them because they set themselves, they knew in their head they wanted to get this. They wanted to be competitive. They wanted to get it before some of the other students. And they really had a big time, and all we did is move from note-taking and test-taking and filling in the blank problems and instead put it in a simple game form, and they were all excited about that. So that was one of the tools used this week. The teachers and I joke, we basically got one more week of virtual classes, and then we come back on September 28th. We're always amazed in the classroom how much you offer a kid a starburst for answering a question correctly, and it's crazy how much that motivates them. Let me tell you this. The school I am associated with, in fact, our entire district is part of the Second Step program, and we teach our homeroom classes Second Steps. That was my 6th grade class for me, and this week's project was showing how your brain worked and talking about how the brain connects together. I even shared a story of somebody that I know that had a stroke about 5 years ago, and it affected that person's lower brain, and when they saw the brain scan, you could just see a couple of little black dots where the dead or dying, we weren't sure, brain cells caused the stroke. Now, or I should say was the result of the stroke. As far as the strokes go, it was mild. This person is doing fine. This person lost their lower right-hand peripheral vision. And we were talking about the brain in the class this week, and I said, it's amazing that on this brain scan, the doctor showed how just these 2 little deadened brain cells cause you to lose just your peripheral vision. So as strokes go, it was pretty mild. That's the only thing that this person lost, and that person has now regained some of that sight. So the brain is an amazing thing, and I told them it's that, the brain surgeons now know even which part of your brain to touch to make your right foot move. It's crazy how much we know about the brain now, what we can accomplish with that. But the point I was trying to make when we were talking about the brain is there's ways to keep your brain sharp. The example they gave us in Second Step was juggling. And I made the example with them, if you go to your family members right now and pass a ball back and forth and, toss it like you were juggling, your brain is sharper than when you're just sitting on the couch because you are focused on that. And I mentioned to them, what if I offered to give you $1 if you could juggle 2 balls for 30 seconds? Well, they liked that idea. And I said, what if I said I would give you $100 to juggle 2 balls for 30 seconds? And then they said, we would really love that idea. And I said, well, think about it. Which one would you concentrate most on? And it's obvious. When you have a motivational factor, you concentrate more. So I said, guys, math is the same way. If you constantly, I shouldn't say constantly, but if you often practice your math abilities and practice on getting better at it, It will keep your brain sharp and focused. If you go back to the example I gave you about 3 weeks ago about the airplane and the bullet holes, it was a mathematician that solved that, and I use that as an example because I said his brain was sharp. He solved that puzzle without a whole lot of problem. Now, guys, everybody is going to like different math tools in different ways. I'm going to give you some of the ones that we're using. You can choose which one you like to use. I will just tell you that already know my favorite is Khan Academy. We've already had an episode of Substitute Teachers Lounge about that. So think about using that. The great thing about that, they go at their own ability. You'll assign them a deadline, but they can go at their own pace. If they miss some questions, Khan Academy immediately gives them hints, lets them watch videos. But if they're pretty successful, they don't have to watch as much. So it gives them different levels of accomplish. There is also Desmos.com. That is Desmos. I would encourage you to subscribe to all of these. They're free accounts. It's activity-based. So you'll like that. There is one called Extra Math that is without the E. So it's XTRA, extramath.com. That helps them to increase their math fluency. It might not always be exactly what you're covering, but like I said, it's practicing math. It's getting to know math and keeping your brain sharp. There is deltamath.com. That is another example that we use. If you're familiar with IXL, a lot of schools do that. It's like IXL, but it's free. There is some things that maybe don't track as well as IXL, but you can sync it with Google Classroom. So it's more of an explanation-based thing rather than an instruction-based thing. There's also Illuminations. There's different things you can use in iReady. I'm a Kahoot fan. Go out and practice all these. I would challenge you as a substitute teacher, if you think you love English but aren't as crazy about math, go to some of these. You're going to fall in love with math. I try to stress to the students all the time, you use math, just as English, you use math every single day of your life. Math is built into everything that you see around us. The stoplights couldn't work without math. Obviously, our banking system couldn't work without math. Our sports would be almost impossible to play if math wasn't around. I mentioned to them that I'm a big fantasy sports nut. I love statistics in that way. That keeps your brain sharp. I reminded them that my twin sons, learned their numbers when they were very small by playing Super Mario Brothers because it kept their brain sharp, and they watched as the numbers go up as they would get one-ups, and they knew what their numbers were. So there's all kinds of cool things like that. Try out some of those. I can't believe that I've already gone this long, but try out some of those tools, please, and get back to me. Let me know the ones you want. What I promise to you is I will get more into them in depth, and we'll talk about at least one or two of them on a full episode because there's lots of stuff for the substitute teacher to learn. Now, to take us out of this episode today, this was fantastic. This week, we had just like an electric spike in the school, just for a second. But it was right in the middle of a Zoom class meeting I was conducting. It knocked me out, and I thought, we're recording this privately through Zoom now. We have a very secure account through our schools, and they have passcodes, so there's no way, I shouldn't say that, famous last words, but it would be extremely tough for a hacker to see this. So it's only meant for the students. They're the only ones that get the link and the passcode. So that's what we're doing. And it just so happened that when I was knocked out, we were recording. And since they stayed in the meeting, and since the recording was taking place in the cloud, it continued to record. So I went back and watched it, and I thought it was real funny. So we'll close with that today, and I'll see you next week.
You're freezing up. You're frozen. Your screen's frozen, Mr. Collins.
You lagged.
Oh my gosh.
Guys, he just left the meeting, I'm pretty sure. He said someone else was leading.
Wait, why did he leave?
I think there's some way to add him back in.
Yeah.
I tried to. My brother's teacher left one time, and I had to add her back in. Lily, you're the host. You're our teacher today.
Yeah, it says you're the host now.
Does it say anyone's in the waiting room?
Yeah.
Try to let them back
Yeah,
in.
you should be able to access the waiting room.
Or make somebody who knows how to do this. If
I
you
don't
know
know
how
how
to
to
do it,
do
then you
this.
can do it.
I don't know how to do this.
I'm
The host. There's a way you can make her the host.
Okay,
I think if
Or to mute us all, make us all be quiet.
I think if is to leave, then I might become the host, because if she leaves, I will be the first one on the thing.
I don't really know what's happening.
Yeah, I should be the host, and then
What should we do?
this makes no sense. I don't know how that happened.
It's because he probably got kicked out.
Oh yeah, he might have got kicked out. Okay.
Because it's
We have
obvious.
no
'cause
teacher.
he just froze
You're
out.
unsupervised.
Like, if we all left the meeting, he would care. Like, the teacher already left.
Right as he was about to say it, just frozen.
Got in trouble. I mean, we
Oh,
could
there's a way to make someone else a host if you don't know.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Can you try and make the host?
I don't know how.
Okay, well then leave the meeting and let's just see who becomes host,
Wait.
okay?
Wait, does anything say a waiting room, like, on your screen?
Hold on. If you open up the participants button, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No.
and then it should show everybody's names, and then you can make one of
Just leave the meeting.
Yeah, we all leave it, and then we can go back through the link, and hopefully we can do this.
Maybe.
Wait.
Mr. Call, I think.
Well,
Do you,
that's
Kyla,
not
do you
me.
have the waiting room? Wait. Open up the participants button.
And then click somebody to be the thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you see a waiting room button at all?
Here, wait, let me go. Wait.
Make host. Okay, there we go.
Oh,
Who do you make the
email.
host?
There's a way
Okay.
you can make
So are you the host now?
Yep, she's the host.
Yep, you're the host
Yes,
now.
I'm host.
Okay, now see if there's anybody in the waiting
That
room.
was weird.
It's kind of weird.
Okay. The only person that's in the waiting room, I see the waiting room, but the only person that's in there.
We'll let him in.
Yeah, I'm gonna let him in.
I'm gonna try and invite him
Me?
to the thing.
I've been the host before.
Hey, guys.
Landon.
Okay,
Guys,
Landon.
if you go to participants, on the very bottom screen, it says invite.
Mr. Collins said
Grace.
he'll be back soon.
Go to participants. Go to participants.
I see it, and if you open up the participants button, there's a thing.
I
At the
think
very
we can
top
all
saying,
invite him.
Go to default email.
No, it's at the very top. It says those in waiting, and
Hang on, I'm inviting him back in.
you don't have to raise your hand. And it says those in waiting, and there is. Oh, Mr. Collins is back in.
Okay.
Mr. Collins.
Mr. Collins, are you here?
Did you miss me? We actually had
have
a
literally no
power
idea
spike
what
here
we-
at the
what-
school. The lights
going
went
on.
out and everything. So I didn't accidentally kick a cord out of the wall this time, okay?
It still says that I'm the host of the meeting.
That's all right. I can take care of that. Unless you want to host it.
I don't care.
Yep, it's still recording. As soon as it let me go back into the meeting, and you're probably going to, if you go to that recording, you'll probably see the whole time while I was gone. So that means all of you guys that were talking about me, I'm going to be able to go back and see all that. Yeah. All right. Think of all the demerits
weren't
that are
talking
coming,
about-
man. All right, here we go.
We were very worried. We had no idea what we were doing.
I'll find out
Yes,
soon
we
enough.
just kept laughing.
Music provided by Finn Sound.